Okay, let's talk about the ban list.
Let's talk about the Kobe. Start us off. Like, what did you think about the ban list? Where were you when you heard about the news of the ban list?
I was asleep, and then I woke up and I had such a great time. I was starting off my morning routine, and then I was like, "Wait, wasn't there a ban list?" And then I checked my phone, and my whole morning routine just like went down the drain.
I thought you were gonna say like you first heard about it while you were sleeping, like you dreamed it.
I mean,
you were like, it came to me in a dream, and then it was there.
And then I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I usually start off my day with hot yoga. I went there, and usually it's like very meditative and so zen. The whole time I was thinking about the ban list. Like, this is not it. This is not it. I think they did a fantastic job with it. The whole approach of having combined restrictions with like leader and characters, that solves so many issues.
Yes.
It's a great precedent going forward as well for Banlist. I don't know why they took 2 years to unban Kabaji.
Yeah.
That's a joke. It's obviously a problem for Nami. Otama was obviously a problem for Nami. They figured it out. They banned Nami, which, you know, I'm a big Nami fan, but it was the right choice. I think just like RP Law, it creates the dilemma of like card creation, right? Just like, how do we create this card without taking this leader in a completely different direction in a negative way?
Yeah.
And there you go. We just get rid of it, and then reprint another one. You know, the usual,
the typical.
That's like heavily nerfed.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get more East Blue support in the future, but
sure,
you know.
Is there a card you wish they hit that they didn't, or wish they unbanned and they didn't?
And did you get bingo?
No.
Yeah, we all.
Sorry. Let me start with the second question first. I don't think I got bingo. And I feel like Tashigi is overtuned in Zoro. I feel like that could be maybe restricted.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm fine with everything else.
Yeah. Pair ban for Tashigi. Tashigi cannot be played with Zoro anymore.
That's wild, right? Because the effect is limited to only Zoro leader. Okay.
No, the second half, right?
Yeah.
So you can still
rest
5/7 rest of 6 cost base 6 too. Yeah. So like.
That was enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
There we go.
If it was 1K counter and that. You'd actually just play it in Smoker, right?
Yeah.
You would just play it in Smoker.
Yeah.
Which is like what I kind of thought was like, I feel like this could have been tuned in a way where it was support for Smoker and Zoro if it didn't just add this like 3 Dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you feel about it?
Oh, I love it. I'm so happy. I mean, okay, so one, Sokka unbanned. I never thought this was going to happen in a million years. I actually didn't. Because I thought, like, okay, this is the thing with Bandai, right? So they had a team and a producer who started the One Piece card game. They got it off. They did a great job. Then they switched producers halfway through. And so in Japan, so in Japan, there's been a lot of like, some people like the old style, some people like the new style. But I think there's probably, with this production shift, there's been some changes in like the philosophy of the game. Because I first, how I interpreted the early ban lists was something along the lines of, they don't want to do leader-specific bans because it's too complicated. They don't want like this really like if statement-y ban list.
Yeah.
And then when they ban a leader, they reprint it, and that's supposed to fill in the place of that leader, which suggests that that leader will never be unbanned because they've replaced that leader with a new version. And so it seems like this newer production team, or just changes in the direction of the One Piece card game, have resulted in them kind of walking that back a little bit. And now they are doing if conditional bans, which is great, and they are unbanning leaders that they printed another leader for. Yeah. So like 2 things in one ban list that I've wanted for so long came. So I was really, really happy about that. I think like the conditional bans like can say like, I don't want to say save the game because the game's like, but like that is what the game needs. It really, really, really needs that, because every set they print so many leaders, and this card game has so many leaders. So many of them are so close to being viable, but if you hit specific cards that are really, really strong in a color, you actually just end up like taking a whole swath of leaders and just pushing them aside. And so being able to just hit specific cards, the specific leader leaves like so many more decks as viable. Even if they're just like dark horses, they're not like serious competitive decks, they're still playable. And they still have those kind of pieces that are usually really strong for set color. So I think that like great, like leader specific bans, amazing. Unbanning Sokka as well, I think is really, really neat. It was an interesting choice. I really like, I think I don't know if it was actually the best timing in term from a marketing standpoint, because the Sokka Unbanned overshadowed all of the new leaders coming out here. I felt like, and it also
the OP12 leaders,
and it also overshadowed some OP13 as well. Like a lot of people got so excited by Sokka, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I thought it was just interesting that they chose to do it.
Yeah,
true.
But the excitement for Sokka has been really, really fun. And so like when I found out Sokka was unbanned that day, I literally sat on Sim, like I did nothing. I sat there like for like 15 hours, like facing every single deck, facing every single like iteration. I was so excited.
You missed it that much, eh?
I didn't even know I missed it that much.
There you go.
But it's such a fun leader. It's such a fun deck, and I think actually it is really smart because it's going to gatekeep yellow decks, which with the recent UP ban are like yellow's like busting out, like Enels. I see Enels everywhere. When I close my Enel, like is there, and so that helps. So Sokka's going to check that,
and that's a different problem.
Yeah, it's all the same. It's all the same.
Yeah, Enels shouldn't exist. That's my ban list. Like that's actually like, my ban list was just Enel.
Yeah, it was just all Enels and then puddings. They shared each square together.
Yeah.
And then also Sokka checks green decks as well. And so like obviously Bonnie is really, really strong now, losing her worst matchup in UP when she was already like a top tier deck. She probably is the best deck this format. We'll have to see how things shape up. But Sokka's like pretty good into Bonnie, and certainly there's ways of building Sokka where you just eat green and yellow decks alive. I mean, now you're gonna have trouble with like Zoro and maybe some other colors. But from my own testing, like there are ways of building Sokka to specifically target one thing, and you just massacre that thing. And so by bringing back Sokka, I think it actually adds some balance to the Force, and things are kind of like the meta might actually be far more interesting than it would have been. We'll have to see after like these next 2 weeks, but I think the Sokka Unbanned could help balance out the meta in a way that none of us saw coming, because we were all wondering, like, okay, how do you balance things now if you hit just UP, right? It seems like the meta's going to be so warped. I think the Sokka Unbanned is one way of kind of like tilting the scales just a little bit. So it's great.
It has like a small gravity well in there that still like helps to even out the overall playing field.
I think so. It does seem viable to me. I mean, we'll see how things shape up. But in my own testing, it's not top tier. It's not going to take over in the way it once did.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot of people playing it. A lot of people excited to play it, and I think that's enough to put some pressure on some of the decks that are really strong.
It's I think you brought this up before. Like people had played like an unbanned tournament where like they kind of unbanned everything and tried things out, but then like RP was still too strong.
Yes.
Like, do you still think that's true? Because like some people after that announcement were like, now do RP next, and I'm just like, no way, you cannot.
Well, the thing is, like, that was what sucked about the RP law ban, right? That was the big one. That was the real, I think, like, where we realized that Bandai are not going to do leader-specific bans, because that was the most obvious leader-specific ban ever, which was the Black Maria, right? Black Maria came out for RP law and allows them to basically do everything they want to do for free. It's such a good card, it's a 2K, and that just threw like RP law over the edge, right? It became tier 0, and in Japan they suffered for like 5 months or something of just RP law mirrors. And so everyone was like, okay, well, just ban Black Maria and RP law. And the fact that Bandai didn't was kind of them taking a stand, like, we're not doing this. But I think now they could bring back RP Law, and they could hit Black Maria, and they could hit a few other cards that might be a little bit too strong.
Yeah.
And we could see that deck that once again was really, really fun, really, really skillful, come back, and another fan favorite. I think if you unban RP Law, you're going to see the same like furore in the community where everyone's like really excited. Because that was another really fun deck to play, and it was just like, once again, just printing like this random card that was way too good for the deck, just threw it over the edge until you just tune it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Come back.
All right, RP Law is getting unbanned. You heard it here, folks.
Oh,
if anyone's looking to buy leaders cheap.
I love the real winner of this ban list. Bingo cards aside, the real winner of this bingo, this ban list bingo, is Luca with his like 10 Sakazuki Dons, like the 10 Sakazuki leader Dons. He sells them all, and then he takes his girlfriend out for a date. I'm just like, that is the real winner of the ban list. Like, not Sokka, not anyone who won a free mat or a free deck box. It's Luca with his 10 Sakazuki leaders. He's the real winner.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I didn't even know when Sokka got banned. I didn't know what to do with my leader. Like I had it, so at one point I had it just like displayed on my wall somewhere. Just like, yeah, Sokka, and then I had it like in a special place in my binder in case it ever comes unbanned. So it was like really fun. Like when the unban came, I like opened the binder, took it out of its special slot, put it back in its top loadery thingy, and started deck building. So it's definitely, I think a lot of people have really fond memories of playing Sakazuki. I think a lot of people, like, that was their first top, or was like a significant top, and that was like a style of deck that suited, I think, one type of player really, really, really well. And so, like, there was the Sokka era, and there's a lot of players who did really, really well in that era, and then I think they struggled after that era because we haven't had another deck quite like Sokka. Like, RP Loss played so differently. BY Luffy plays so differently. Even Dofi plays really, really differently. And so I feel like having that deck back for that style of player is really exciting.
Yeah. I just think it's all my thoughts of the Banlist aside, I just like anything that will improve diversity overall. So even though they took a leader out, at least they kind of brought one back in. I almost thought that maybe they weren't going to do the Sokka thing at first, but they're like, oh, like, we forgot to ban Nami. Okay, now we take that away. Let's actually run the math on this. Is it really that oppressive to have Sokka come back? And then they were like, well, Lucci isn't oppressive. Yeah. So if Lucci is Lucci that much, or is Sokka that much stronger than Lucci, or is it just a different form of Lucci that has better matchup somewhere, worse matchup other places? And they're like, oh yeah, this is about to come back.
Yeah, and it's a fun trade-off. I mean, like, the thing is, like, you're losing a life, but you're getting more consistency. And one of the things people don't like about Lucci is that it can be really hard when you don't draw the pieces you need. And you're very dependent on pieces that are not searchable in any way, and then you're also milling things you might need every turn, right? And so Sokka solves that problem, but you're now on a knife's edge for, like, the entirety of the game. And so it's a fun trade-off, and I think it's great to have, like, again, we were just talking about how, like, I feel like black players are kind of getting, like, that style of black of removal, it's kind of been getting shafted because, like, everything has removal protection. It's like it seems like Bandai doesn't want that style to come back, but it's actually nice that they did bring back something like that. Like a similar deck you've got now, the bot deck ability and balance ability with Sokka that you don't really have with Lucci. But it's a fun style of gameplay, and I still think that really we're onto something with that Sakazuki, whether intentional or not. I want more decks in the game like Sokka, which require multi-card combos. We were talking about this earlier. Like, to do anything with Sokka, and even with Lucci, you typically need, like, 2 cards. You're almost never just playing one card that does everything. And, like, even though there are options that are 1-card answers, like, let's say, like, the Black Sabo, that Chaos 2 thing, like even Lucci and Sokka stay away from those 1-card answers because they're not flexible enough. And so it's like these toolbox decks are so much fun to play. And I think I'd love to see more of that going forward.
Yeah, and I like remember, like, back in OP02, OP03, all decks are like all wanted to have really, like, actually that's what made Red broken, was that it had all these granular 1-drops and 2-drops and 3-drops, and you're like, oh, like, your late game turns are more about weaving these cards together than it is about, like, I play one really big thing. And if you're playing one really big thing, it was like Newgate. You're like, oh, now Newgate. But really, most of the time, it's like I'm playing lots of little plays, and it feels like there's a lot of skill expression in there, right? Because there's so much granularity, and I love combo play like that all the time, because it also makes use of the Dawn system really efficiently. Like, the fact that the Dawn system is so exciting of a gameplay system, that the more granular, like, it's already so cool to be like, this Dawn can play something, or attach my leader, or my character, or do this, that just, you want that kind of, like, freedom in play. Even, like, now, like, you know, looking over to the Gundam side, the funny thing is their meta is now looking more like OP01, OP02, where, like, everything they're playing is low cost because they want really granular turns to really figure things out, rather than, like, here's one really big unit that does one thing. They're like, that's not winning, compared to, like, no, I'm going to play 2-3 little plays that are going to make your turn really awkward. So that's like where I want the game to go more of.
And I mean, it's funny because when you think about even, like, the original Sokka, it was like there was a huge debate about whether you play, like, the 10-cost Kaido, which seems like such an obvious card to play. It's like 10-12 body, which back then there weren't a lot of. It draws you a bunch of cards, and the fact that there was, like, significant debate about that, and, like, a lot of players were like, actually that card is bad in Sokka, tells you, like, how strong the toolbox approach is and the consistency approach is. It's like, I'd rather cut those Kaidos and have 2 more of something that makes my deck more consistent, so that I can do my toolbox thing even better. And so I feel like we're kind of moving away from that with some of the recent decks, but I think, like, Bandai also tends to mix these things in. But I would love to see, like, I can envision a version of Shanks. I can envision a version of Blue Kuzan, like these decks that are kind of playing, like, one thing per turn or one obvious play. Like, I can see visions for those decks where you play multiple things and still have the same outcome. Or you have, like for Shanks, I would love if Shanks' big characters were conditional on, like, having higher life. Like, so you're playing a defensive game and then you're rewarded for that by being able to, like, I think there's ways of, like, forcing more setup, forcing more multi-card combos, or just ways of playing that aren't just like, I slammed the big thing. And I think we need a couple decks like that, of course, because it's a fun style of gameplay, but I also, like, just seeing how excited people were for Sokka, I'm like, okay, people really do like this multi-card combo style. So.
For sure.
I feel like it's been like a talking point every time a new set comes out, where it's like, I wonder if it's okay to unban Sokka now.
Yes. Yeah, it has been. It has been.
Right? Because like one factor is, okay, you no longer have Moria, you no longer have Ice Age, which is huge.
Yeah.
And made Sokka a lot more impressive.
Yeah.
But he still did a lot of things with just Rebecca, Hina, Lucci.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But now we have leaders that just inherently have so much more value that if you do that, well, it's like, okay, that's fine. I'll just do my own thing and like find a way to deal with it or turn that back on you, right? So you can no longer rely on those tools. And it's like, okay, so now you have this leader that was so strong and had to be banned, and now it doesn't even hold a candle to some decks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to be really, really intentional about how you deck build, and you also have to, I think, take into factor a huge element of surprise in the way that you deck build.
Yeah.
Up until, for the next 4 or 5 months, once OP13 comes out, it's hard to say how. Yeah. So
yeah, we're getting Sokka just for this little window. I think because once Emu hits, I think it's going to be really hard. But no, I think you're totally right on that. Like. And I also think it's like there's just a lot more powerful cards. Like if you think about it, there was no like Red Rayleigh before, right? If you think about like for Red Rayleigh removal, 8 cost, big body, right? So for Sokka, you're like, wow, I have to give like how much to deal with this one card that did like so much more, right? And like every color has their Red Rayleigh now, and you've got just so many like huge power plays that just didn't exist before, and now especially without Ice Age. It's really, really hard for Sokka, but like you said, I think surprise is a good factor. I think again, like there's cards that didn't exist before that Sokka can take advantage of. Jozu's a really, really good example. I think everyone's putting Jozu in now. I was testing Muggy Ball, which I think is really, really strong as well. So there's like these kind of new tools that need to adapt. And then I think the final thing, especially with Sokka, is that Sokka didn't emerge even in the East until a month and a half. Even 2 months through, like they were more than halfway through OP05, and that's because what Sokka needs is a fully settled meta.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be in place. All the deck lists kind of have to be figured out to their optimal point as far as you can get, and then Sokka comes in and says, okay, here's exactly what I need for each matchup. And so I think we have to wait a little bit more as well and let things settle, see what decks emerge on top, because I think like Control Shanks is a deck that's going to be huge that wasn't in the East. Blue Kuzan's a deck that seems to be doing really well that wasn't doing well in the East, right? Bonnie's stronger than ever before. Decks like Green Yellow Law are now no longer as good. Rayleigh's no longer as good. Like, so we've got a whole different shift. And so we have to let that settle, and then we'll see what Sokka players can cook up.
Yeah. And even then it's going to be like a situation of like, all right, I win 2 of these matchups, I lose 2 of these matchups.
Yeah, it will never be like before, where you are the one to beat. Like, everyone's trying to beat you. Yeah, no.
I always love like reading the waves of the meta. Like I love reading like the ebbs. Like it's like you're trying to read the tide because, like I feel like every meta, every format has like a beginning, middle, end. Where like the first thing that happens is like there's always like immediate like everyone's like this is just by principles and first principles. This is so strong. This is like the first layer, and then the next layer is like, oh, here's a deck that surprisingly has like a good spread into what the primary meta is now. You get another like thing, and then the final one is like, here's all the really, really high skill decks that now that the meta has settled enough and there's like good visibility, I can tech and do this. Like I remember like BY in 9 or was it 10? I forget which one was like supposedly supposed to be dead because Blackbeard. Oh yeah, in 09 BY was supposed to be dead because Blackbeard came out and because Luffy was so strong and was like terrible for BY, and then like so BY was like nowhere, and then like towards the end of the meta, BY was like it was always BY and Lucci in the top every time because like those decks, which we had Gecko, like, we had Gecko, but like they once they could adjust and once the meta settled, it was like, oh, now let me hyper optimize for what is present and let me like figure out the new strategy and it's back, but it's always get like beginning, middle, end. So I'm so excited to see what like the middle and the end of this one is because like we're seeing the beginning. I think right now we're seeing like control, like I said, Bonnie control decks and like Bonnie, Green Zoro, Shanks, more like mid to late gamey control decks with just like really versatile like I guess like control mechanisms, right? We're seeing that become really popular. Where it's like, okay, now what is the thing that technically eats that? And like I'm like so curious to find out what's gonna be.
Well, I think too what's interesting about like decks like Sokka specifically, I think Lucci has elements of this too, is you like with Sokka you typically have your turns mapped out in a way once the meta's developed and once you know the deck. So similar to how you have your typical curve with other decks, with Sokka you also have a kind of like a curve, which is in every matchup what you want to see and when. And I feel like to play Sokka optimally, you actually need that. You need that mapping, right? It's why when we used to watch, like when we casted that Sokka meet, like we knew every turn you know exactly what's supposed to happen. And then when something goes wrong, that's when you're like, oh, this is the point in the game where something's changed, and then you're in kind of new territory. But you actually need that, like I need to know as Sokka, like it's like, okay, it's actually Jozu on 6 to bounce this thing here, and then I follow that up with this thing here. Because then that helps me cycle appropriately and know what hand to keep at the beginning of the game. And then if I don't have that curve, I can start thinking about contingencies. Okay, maybe now that means I can't get the removal I need, so I'm going to have to swing into something with a Hellblaze and hope they don't have counter. Right? So you really need all of that worked out first for a deck like Sokka. And so I think we have to just wait and see. And once we get to the later stages of the meta, we could see, I think, I still expect to see Sokka even at upcoming regionals doing pretty well. I don't think it's going to be
at the first regional. Absolutely.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It is going to actually just like burn through a whole bunch of like newer players too, because it's going to be like people who weren't. It's like I always joke about like when I was playing Gecko and people like lost it, where it's like it's because people didn't have the antibodies. They're like, oh, they haven't been vaccinated for this. They don't actually know how to handle this because they're not vaccinated for this.
Yeah.
I think like Sokka will be very similar, where it's like a lot of people are like, wait, this is like, what? I'm losing units every turn? What? What's going on? So
yeah, and I think too, we'll see. I imagine we'll see Zoro start to fall off. It's interesting because like when we were at locals yesterday, there was like you were the only Zoro, and that's because you had a map to show off. There was surprisingly few.
Not
people.
my choice.
No, there was surprisingly few people on Zoro though. But I think at regionals there'll be 1 million people on Zoro.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting thing about Zoro is because the deck is so linear. I do think once you figure out the way you win the matchup, there's not a lot Zoro can do. Zoro doesn't actually have so many like different lines to pivot. Like, so we were talking about like the control Shanks. And I was testing like Shanks. It's like there's certain turns where if you counter here and you counter here, you just win, right? But you have to figure that out. But once you figure that out, all of a sudden Zoro isn't quite as scary. I mean, you still have to see the cards, and that's the pressure the deck puts on you. But I think when everybody figures out, okay, here's what I need to beat Green Zoro. They do this on this turn. They swing 12/12 on this turn. They swing 9 into my 6k body on this turn, so I 2/2 out of that one, and then that. Right. Once all of those things start to get figured out, the power of Zoro will like dip down. I still think it's going to be a really strong deck because the deck just exerts so much pressure naturally and has so many good matchups. Yeah. But I do think we have to wait for that to happen because that definitely happened in Japan, and that's why we saw Zoro almost completely fall off. Now Zoro had a bad matchup into UP Luffy, which played a huge role in that. But also, people like Zoro was doing really, really well in Japan, and you just saw like it just plummeted, and I think that's why. Because you start to figure out, okay, it's kind of like playing against. It reminds me of playing against Yamato back in the day, where it's like I know I need like 4 2Ks for this turn. I know I need 3 blockers. Yeah. If I get 3 blockers on this turn and then I 2K, I'm good. And then once you realize that, okay, now I can do my mulligan better. Now I know like when to counter, when to keep. If you don't know that, you just die. Like you literally just die. I think we're seeing that with Zoro. People are just dying right now, but it's because they don't actually know like when do I play a body, when do I not play a body. Yeah. When do I counter for my body? When do I not counter?
When can they punish my body? When can that? Because like people, I know like I even thought of like, oh, I kept assuming that the second swing can, even though you know the second swing can't go back into the board again, the concept of that doesn't click until you actually play it enough times. You're like, oh, once he's fought any character here, everything on my board is safe now.
Yeah.
It's like it really just changes the way you think. Like I think the first time when I played against you and you blocked in a certain way, I was like, oh, and it helped me understand how to play against Zoro from there too. I was like, okay, I kind of understand the leader ability more. Like my brain understands it rather than just being like on paper I understand it. Yeah. It's very different.
Yeah, you have to experience it. And you have to like, it's like again like playing against Yamato.
You have to get Tashigi dropped on you to understand, and then you understand.
You need to have enough characters arrested by Tashigi and killed until you realize maybe I just shouldn't play my character on this turn.
Honestly, yeah, that's so true. It's kind of like Nami, right? Where it's like, it's a knowledge check first of all, and then once you pass that knowledge check, it's a luck check.
Yes, exactly.
If they have it, they have it.
But yeah, Yamato's the same way. I feel like or Yamato or whatever. It's always been that kind of deck too, where it's very much a skill check, and that's why it's actually a great deck I think for newer players to start with, because you'll do well at locals because you'll just check people in it who don't know how to play the matchup. But it's always been that. Like it's always been a deck where it's like you swing with it and then they give you 2 cards to counter and then you're like, I guess I win, I just go banish, right? Like it's just kind of knowledge like, oh yeah, you always take the first 2 and then you need a blocker here, and I feel like Zoro is that, and then on top of that it's also like exerting so much force on the meta as well, where it's just like so strong that like you'll also just like even if you know what to do, you might just be dead if they see everything they need. But yeah, I think it's not my favorite deck to have, but I think we're in for like a more fun meta than they had in Japan, so we should be grateful.
Yeah. Like anytime we get a unique like not even unique because it's the Banlist are share, but the fact that like the Banlist comes out a set earlier, we get like a whole fresh new meta. Like anytime we have a new meta, we're so happy because before Simon release comes out, this is like the best we're gonna get, and like we're happy. I wonder if Green Zoro has like a renaissance where like kind of like remember with Shanks when people started innovating with Rush Shanks, where like either like you just throw this out the window, and we just hyper index on this. I feel like Zoro without UP around, someone's gonna figure out a list with it where it does the same thing where you're like, yeah, it just plays the best green cards and just that's all it does. It doesn't do anything else other than have a leader ability and play the best green cards. Like I'm like 90% sure someone's gonna come up with that.
I think so. Yeah, it's crazy how much like that's a leader. It's still a little like wild to me they printed it because it also does seem like a leader that can gatekeep the color green for such a long time to come. Because it just the leader ability in and of itself, it kind of puts the game on a timer, and it also makes you able to build in such a way that you don't really need big bodies because you can just clear their big bodies so efficiently. And so I do think it is a bit problematic from a design perspective, and it, like you are saying, like right now the deck, it's so obvious what to play in the deck, and it's so strong in the current meta that there could be other versions of the deck as well that could emerge in the future, and with future green cards that
I would love to see that
are crazy. And the thing is, like you could play like a green event Zoro and be completely defensive and just rely on your leader ability swinging every turn and be like infinite defense. Like there's just so many different ways of building that leader because it doesn't really have any restrictions on it. It's not like Rayleigh where it's like, oh yeah, okay, you can't play dragon in this deck. You can't play XYZ in this deck. It's just like green, go. Which to be fair, green has like
go.
Like let's give green some support. Green has traditionally lacked as a color, and so now we've got Bonnie and Zoro.
It's their era.
Good time
it's their era.
But
it's like it's Sokka and Lucci's turn to be like, oh man, all these green players everywhere. Oh man, I went to locals and I faced 3 green decks as Lucci. I faced
Sounds like Sokka will have a good time against green because of the bottom decking.
Yeah, but I mean Zoro's hard, so that's the problem.
Absolutely.
But it's not as bad as people think. It's not. I don't think it's impossible.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I agree. I had the thought. I was like, yeah, Nami would be a great counter for Zoro. When you do Rester Kaya and swing into it.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Man, but yeah,
Nami
too little,
ban?
too late for that.
I don't like the Nami ban. It's weird because it's like they just did the thing we all wanted, which is conditional bans, and then they just didn't do a conditional ban for Nami.
So, okay, that's tough. That's tough. Like they do have to think a lot more about like, okay, this would be a great card to have in the color blue, but now we have to like type lock it to Wano or something instead of giving it to everyone.
Yeah, but like Nami's gonna be gone, right? Pretty soon. So I think I would have rather I think it would have been a fairer compromise to be like, okay, you can play Nami, but you can't play like Impel Down All Stars, and you can't play Kaya or something like that to replace. Like, there's some tuning where they can have the new
just
card
to keep it around for 4 more months and then rotate
there's
that
some
anyway,
tuning you could do where it just kind of stays where it is now, and then all the Nami players don't lose their deck that they were probably hoping to play and say goodbye to.
Yeah,
it kind of sucks
I think
to
they're
have
thinking
your
about
thing.
Eternal though. They're thinking of Eternal format, which I think
When
was
it
a
comes,
distraction.
ban it in Eternal. That's tomorrow's problem. Like you don't want to take away something. They're already taking away the deck from people, and it's especially I think cruel because we traditionally Nami players just play Nami and they love that deck. And so it's like they were already going to have that deck rotate out, and it's like so I think we should have let them play it if they wanted to until the end, as opposed to kind of abruptly taking it out due to what seems to be an error on Bandai's part, printing a card that shouldn't be in the deck. So I think that was a little bit on the cruel side. I think,
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Especially for us, we don't have fun new cards for a long time.
Yeah.
And like
For now, yeah.
Whether or not like Nami was problematic, it's definitely a problematic card for the design space of the game. Like I think that like a leader, like that's like hands down. And blue has suffered as a result of that. I think forever. Like blue has just never been a good color. It's always been a mix color because at least then you can stipulate some conditions on it. And so I think it would be nice to have a full power blue. And I think One Piece card game has suffered for not having a proper blue identity in it for a long time. And I think that's also bad for the game because there's a lot of players who are going to come from Magic and come from other card games who want the blue thing. They want to draw a lot of cards. They want to freeze your board. They want to make it as painful for you as possible until you like deck out because they've got you on lock. Yeah. And unfortunately, any card that you print that's blue has to be like type locked in some way. It has to be very specifically tailored to something. And so opening up the color, I think, is good. But I also think like I want decks like Nami in the game, so I'll be sad to see Nami go because I think
we do have Nami in the game.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
Marco, he was in East Blue at one point, right?
No, I think like the funniest thing was like, you know, everyone realizing after Kawaji got unbanned, being like, wait, he's not even East Blue. Yeah. I can't even use it in there.
Yeah, it's
man, it's like I think. Okay, obviously Nami's not playable right now.
Yeah.
Promo 1.
Yeah.
But you could make support in the future.
Yeah.
If you really want, it is block 4, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you could. Like, there's a way of bringing it back. I think like I like Nami. I like my Namis. I like my teaches. I don't like them at tier 0. I like them at tier 1.5 where they should be. I
where
think
they belong.
No, they do belong in this. Because I think we'll talk about this too when we talk about tips, like gameplay tips. But I like having these decks that they can show up. You may face them at locals, you may face them at regionals, and if you really want to be a competitive player, you need to play those decks to understand them, to play against them. And one of the things I always loved about playing against Nami, and especially playing against good Nami players, which is so much fun, is like we both know how to play the deck pretty well, and so it's a battle of both of us figuring out like what could be there and what could be where, and we're both doing it in real time. It's like they check their trash and then I check their trash, and then they check their trash and then I check the trash, so we're both mapping it out. And like I think it's rewarding when you win that matchup because you've got the knowledge and you practiced it. But I don't think everyone wants to do that, and so I don't think the deck should be in a place where you have to. But I think it's like if you're somebody who wants to be a competitive player, you're gonna have to put some time in. You're gonna have to learn how Teach works. You're gonna have to learn how Nami works. And I like having a couple decks like that. And then I also like that they reward skillful play. Like there's like no one's ever gonna say Nami's not a skillful deck. No one's ever gonna say Teach is not a skillful deck.
I think people do say that,
No,
but
yeah,
they don't know.
Well, I mean,
The ones who don't understand it.
Yeah.
Those who don't know real. No.
No, for sure.
Do you recognize?
Yeah, I'm sure people say that, but
People can say all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
From what we've learned from Twitter and Swordmill, you can say whatever you want on Twitter. You can say anything you want.
What is the strongest, least skillful deck?
Strongest, least skillful.
Zoro. Right, you're asking right now?
Strongest
Yeah, right now.
with low skill.
I think it's probably
Is it Zoro?
It's close between Zoro and Enel. I would say.
I think Enel takes a lot more thinking.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking Zoro. It's just that I think Zoro.
But Zoro also has planning aspects.
It has planning.
To it, right?
Like the problem is that
you do need to play the right thing at the right time.
Yeah, and I think what's hard. I mean, I think they're probably equal with anything, because what's hard is we always tend to think, when we think about a deck, we think about like skillful. We think about their optimal curve into decks, and we think like, oh, if Zoro just sees Tashigi and just sees this, you just win. And it's like if Enel just sees 4 aces when he needs them, you just win. But the problem is that like you have to think about it like 10 rounds in a regional where you have 2 to 3 games where you don't see optimal. Like how do you pilot it to victory and also the mirror? And so I think those are 2 factors that can make things
because I think like the 10 round and like the local factor is very like like 4 round, 10 round, like we can talk about this intermediate regional tips, but like 4 and 10 rounds, night and day.
It's so like
night and day.
So,
huge statistical difference.
Yeah, and so I think with both decks, like, and that's one thing I love about One Piece is that I think almost any deck becomes skillful when you don't draw well, and your fundamentals kick in. And your fundamentals you have to do combat, and you have to do weird things or take the game down weird lines. And so it's more about like when that happens, which deck requires more thinking or which deck requires. And I think that's hard because I think, like Enel's game plan is so linear in a sense, in that whereas Zoro you do have to think a little bit more. I think about combat math. Like I when I think about Enel, I'm never really thinking too much about combat math. I'm thinking more about like very macro gameplay decision making, and what tends to get Enel players is they swing either too early or too late with their board, and they either lose their board as a consequence, or they lose the game because they didn't put enough pressure. But it's like a very macro level decision. I haven't played Green Zoro enough to really know the difference.
I think kind of like to your point, like what you think, like what I would have considered like a good, like for audience home, like what I consider kind of like the low skill, high impact or outcome leader was like Rushang. So you literally if you just saw Searcher into 3 cost Sanji, into 5 cost Luffy, into 7 cost Beckman, into 8 cost Rayleigh or dragon into Russia, you just
Okay.
win. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that is the peak example, historic. And
Right.
then what's the current version like now? I was actually starting to think about.
Yeah.
My thought was like, what's that right now?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
Well,
if there
I
is
think-
one. Like,
yeah. Well, I think too, what's interesting about like your Shanks example is, again, you're saying the optimal curve, but I think it's also interesting to think about like the suboptimal curve as well. Like I think with Shanks, what was interesting about Shanks is like when you didn't see it, you're playing this really weird game of like leader affecting and when to leader effect and when not to. And so I remember like, and this is the thing, it's hard. Like I would almost put Shanks on the same level as these three, where it's like they have like really, really easy to play curves that just win, and then you have to really fall back on fundamentals.
if you don't get
If you don't get the, which is almost every deck. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
But it's just I'm struggling
Like,
to articulate it because there is a way of falling back on fundamentals that's different.
Are you saying like those decks are more forgiving if you don't see the optimal curve?
No.
No, he's saying the skill expression isn't
unforgiving.
what happens
They're unforgiving.
when you don't hit the ideal curve.
Yeah.
But when you hit the ideal curve, you are the easiest to pilot deck. And then when you don't, that's where you're like getting into your 6th and 7th round, like a true test of like the player you are. But like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
So
So
I'm trying to
now
compare
would it
them.
be-
I'm trying to compare each of them at their worst, essentially. Is the idea, because at their best they're all kind of really strong. If they all see their curve, it's like really easy to play. Like so simple. But it's like when you don't see your curve, which one requires the most skill to come out on top? And that's where I'm thinking like I don't know if I put Enel too high in that, because even when you don't see your curve, like your decision making is still. There's not a lot. Like you're just like, I hope I see my big.
Don't
jump
die
soon.
and develop board.
Yeah,
don't die and
don't
develop
die and
board.
develop
Just
board.
always those things.
Whereas
yeah.
I always felt like even with Shanks, when I didn't see my curve, I was always playing really
Yeah.
weird games where I was bluffing like I had things. I was doing crazy stuff like taking life when I shouldn't, just to have more cards in hand because like I need to defend this one Lucky Brew.
Yeah.
Because he's the only thing I got, you know. Like so,
Relatable.
yeah. But it's like I think it's all very close. But
I would like, because you brought it up that way, I think Enel and Green Zoro are both probably in that same bracket of like easy to pilot, like not I would say like low skill expression, but like basically like on the ideal curves you don't have to think too much, and then when it goes off curve, that's like when it's interesting. I think Zoro's like aided by the fact that it has so many good matchups that even if you're off curve, a lot of your good matchups you'll still win. Versus like Enel, if you're not on your ideal curve and you're in a bad matchup, that
just
stuff
eat it.
like you're gonna like feel
And-
really bad.
And Zoro's the thing too, I guess, that is also important is like the strength of the leader ability.
Yes.
Whereas like Zoro's leader ability can carry you. It doesn't really matter what you
On
do.
its own,
You can
right.
just you put the game on a timer by just being able to swing board, swing left.
Yeah.
From your leader. Your leader's putting the game on the on the timer, not what you draw. Whereas with something like Enel, you are dependent on what you draw. So, like you're not. The game is not on a timer if you draw 2 games. Like, you just dead. Your leader ability is not going to help you if you draw 2. Whereas like Zoro, if you draw 2Ks, you actually still have a win con, which is like you swing at their board, and you bluff your last hand, and you counter out of their 15 or something, and you win. Like there's like you know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's a massive tangent to Banlist, but that's a fun.
No, it's a good
conversation.
topic though. I have to think about
Yeah,
it.
because these are all like the things that I think I even want to like make it a little graphic, but it's like after Banlist, how does the whole ecosystem shift? Because that's the coolest thing to see is like it's literally like an ecosystem. Like you like there's no longer parakeets here, so now suddenly like all these other things like now crocodiles eat this. It's like and the whole like circle of life changes. But yeah, so. Yeah, anyway, so my thought was around just like how that ecosystem changes, and I think the control like things like talk like Green Zoro, Enel, all these like control decks start to come up, and then also like for people at home, some people like wonder like what is the easy what is the one that you should try playing now? Who knows what comes out on top? I guess we'll have to find out on September 6th, 401 Toronto Regional. We'll have to find out what top dog is.
But I think too, like I mean, like I do like to hate on Enel and I do like to hate on Green Zoro, but I do think there's a difference between like when we say like these decks are low skill, like I think they're low skill, but I think you have to be a very skillful player to do well with them at regionals, and I would never. I think there's a big difference between those two things. Like so, I think it's like I would never hate the player. I hate the deck. Because it's just sometimes not that fun for me to play against the locals or whatever. But I think like that doesn't actually matter, and that shouldn't like gatekeep you from not playing the deck. Like if you are a serious competitive player right now, you should seriously be thinking about Green Zoro, and you still have to put your time in again for all of those to A, know your matchup spread, and B, be prepared to play when you don't see a Tashigi or a Queen for the whole game, and you have to know how to carry that out, right? And so I think there's like two different things. And I see a lot like we're all like hating, especially on Twitter. There's been a lot of hating on like Green Zoro players, a lot of hating on Enel players. I don't like. I think you can hate the deck, it's fine, but you have to also recognize that One Piece is a card game such that like your fundamentals matter so much. And to me, when I play Enels at locals, I play Green Zoros, there's a huge difference between a really good Enel player and someone just playing the deck, and the difference is massive. Same
You
thing
played
with
by
shapes.
the deck.
Yeah, like there's a huge difference, right? Massive.
Yeah.
And so I think it's always worth keeping that in mind, especially when you're playing against these decks, because one thing I'll see is that people will be like, oh, you're playing Enel, like I should just scoop it up.
Yeah.
I don't want to play. Or you're playing Green Zoro, I don't
right.
want to play. That's like,
No.
that is so wrong. Like, because the what you have to think about the player you're playing against, and they also have to play well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of nuance in these matchups, and there's a lot of things you can figure out, and you should always play out the matchup. You can learn a lot. Because even if you're playing Rayleigh into Enel and you have a 20% win rate, there's still 20% chance. It's not 0. So what is it that happens to get to that 20%? Do they just have to brick? Is there a line you can take? Do you know? If you don't know, you shouldn't be complaining. You should play out the matchup more until you know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Wins you know. So I think like it's fun to hate, but I also don't I don't want to hate too much as well. I think it's getting to the point where it's like it's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't be hating on anybody for playing a certain deck.
Yeah. Let them cook.
Yeah, like let them play. And
It
you
feels
should-
like you're reading a lot of posts about people hating.
I am. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's
You can
the
just feel
Twitter
you're
vibe.
feeling a sentiment. Yeah, there's a
Right.
certain sentiment stirring up. I think
I see.
about certain decks, which we don't want that. Like, I don't think there's a place for that. And I also think like when you show up at locals, and like let's say I'm sitting next to an Enel, like inside I'm like, oh man, but you don't show that. Like you should play it because they were trying to practice for like if you just don't play it seriously, like I'm just I don't want to play.
Oh, it's over.
You
Like,
saw another Yamato. Oh my god! Like how do you draw a 4 Yamato?
I've heard a person like we've heard this person at local.
Yeah.
I'm imagining them. And I can
Like,
see their
like,
face.
get out of here with that. Like help them practice. Like they need to practice too for regionals. They like So I think hate Bandai. Hate the giant corporation thing that prints the cards. But when you see someone playing the deck, like don't hate on them because they, like I said, they could be practicing for regionals. And Enel's a great pick for upcoming regionals. Zoro's a great pick, and you need to practice against people if you want to play those decks. And the decks I would seriously be considering if I was playing regionals, especially because it's like I wouldn't have maybe the time I need to practice some of these harder decks. Like Green Zoro seems like something that I could get together in time, and maybe do well with. And like you shouldn't be punished for that.
Yeah, and like last time I said is like if you look at like I remember I used to think Fluffy was like a very like mono purple Luffy was not like how intense can it be, but when we watched Japes and Beard play at regional at Toronto and we're casting their games in the Fluffy mirror, it was so intense that like you think it's a basic deck and you see it played at the highest possible level, where like the bluffs they're putting down and they're both challenging each other to swing like 20k at each other and both like you have it, I got like, and they're like, we just don't know how much counter they have, and it's like such a simple deck, but in that moment you could see like, oh, this is it, like to the highest level. There's still a chance that the Green Zoro could hit that.
No, it's one of those things where it's like, it's fun to have conversations with people, but it's not always a good idea to take serious criticism from people that don't themselves put everything on the line on what they're doing. Right? Like it's easy to sit on a couch and criticize people for like games or like even like how a TCG goes when you're not actually involved in the process, right? Like I mean, that should go without saying, but it might,
no, 100%.
lack of critical thinking.
Well, any last thoughts on Banlist, guys, other than
I guess
you're
UP,
vibing?
So UP got hit, but it's still around. There's going to be a few people playing it at your regional, so you still have to practice against it. So I love that. So I love that it's still here. I think it's interesting that they kept it around. I also think this is another deck that limits the design space of the game. It's going to be around for a long time. So I think there was actually decent grounds for just maybe banning it. But it's also like, it's a fun concept, the idea of drawing 2 per turn. And there's a lot of skill expression with that concept. There's a lot of skill expression with like anything that lets you look in bottom deck and do all that fun stuff. So I'm happy to see it around. I see people cooking some pretty good lists, so you still have to watch out for it. And that is the ideal scenario.
That's great.
Like people who invested in the deck can still play it.
Oh, that's why I should play. Now that it's Rogue,
Now
now I can play it. Now I'm allowed to play it.
It's not even Rogue. Like it's still a very strong deck.
It is, yeah.
Don't say that to me. No, it's Rogue. It's Rogue now. It's Rogue now.
Nothing has changed from this ban list and from when it first came out, and I read it and I was like, you can take one and then put it back on the top?
Yeah.
That's disgusting, man.
It is, and it's funny because it's like, okay, so what was, like, okay, so 9 Mom, like, Kata's actually the bigger, I think, hit than the 9 Mom. 9 Mom was there to help you, like, just stabilize against matchups where they kill you, but, like,
Kata's like, now I'm an AK leader.
yeah, exactly. And like you lost Betty as a problem, right? So
right.
Your defensiveness doesn't need to be as high anymore. So like the deck does quite well if you just use your Rush Luffy's to bounce a threat to the hand. If you use the 7 cost 8,000 power Kid, that gives your leader plus 1,000 to help stabilize early. Like there's still options for the deck.
9 cost Mihawks.
9 cost Mihawks. Like we're always good against like GP Luffy. So that matchup is even easier now, I think, in some ways. And so like it's not, it's in a good spot. It's not too strong, not too weak, but it's something to prepare for, and I like that. I think everyone who's getting ready for regionals, you gotta put some reps in against the new list.
Oh yeah, the amount of we're practicing just to cast it, let alone practicing to like play it at the high level.
That would be like, I don't know how people do that. That's like, there's a lot to prepare for right now. You really need like, you really need to put your time in. And prepare for a lot of different matchups, because it's like there's a lot of like you look at like the tier list that came out last week, which was like one weekend, right? And like that tier list has whatever, like 10 decks. And so I think those are like the ones everyone's thinking about and talking about, but there's a bunch of other decks that were not even on that list that are like hyper relevant that you could also run into, right?
Right.
So there was like Smoker wasn't on that list. I don't think Buggy was on that list.
Nope.
Like even like Red Animal Zoro, which is not like that's, but it's still a thing, wasn't on that list, right? Like so it's like there's all these decks people are playing like BY Luffy. That there's some lists that are kind of scary out there that people are running.
Yeah.
For like so there's a lot of decks. There's purple Luffy still lurks. There's still purple black Luffy's lurking around with the new Nico Robin. Yeah. Right. So there's like all these decks that are also like they're not top tier, but they're around. And then you've got a lot of top. You've got like 10 other meta matchups to prepare for. So there's a lot right now. I can't wait to see the regionals. Like what's gonna happen.
Yeah. It's gonna be Show me your coolest decks.
Yeah. I'm gonna be so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for the top 32 OP12 Sanjis and Koalas. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sanji's around. And that's the thing, is like Sanji can totally check you if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Like 100% though. And there's gonna be like 5 Namis who like convert to Sanjis, and they're gonna be there and they're gonna have practiced every matchup. And that's always the scary thing about those decks. That's another thing about Nami and Teach that I wanted to add, is it's like one thing that I really don't like about playing against good Namis and good Teachers is like, if I don't know the matchup that well, I know they know it way better than me.
Oh yeah.
Right? So when I'm playing like a new deck and I'm like, I sit next to like my friend who's like a really good Teach player, I'm like I have no idea what I'm doing in this matchup, and he knows every single turn what he wants to do, he's practiced it 1,000 times. And that's the thing with decks like Sanji too. If there's going to be like a few Sanjis at these tournaments who've been practicing, they've been cooking with it. They know exactly what they want on every turn. They know exactly what you're going to do before you do it. And you're like, can I read? What does that event do? So.
It's like entering a Pokemon battle, and your opponent starts with Intimidate.
Yeah.
You just start with like lowered attack.
Yeah.
I always call that like, you know how I talk about like we want to give like terms to certain things, so it's like easier to like know it off the bat. Like I've always called that like the southpaw advantage, because like in the world of boxing, people who are left-handed have an advantage, because when you actually fight someone who's left-handed, they like the position is completely different, and you realize your opponent's so much further away that you actually are so jarred by it. But if you are a southpaw, everyone you face is that matchup. So you have 100% of your games practiced in that matchup. Everyone who faces a southpaw has like 0% of their practice against southpaws. So you just get this natural buff that just comes from like having the southpaw advantage. Like you just
it's like a left-handed.
This is my everyday. This is your one game of the regional, and you're just like, oh no, like And this is like, especially if it's our like final round, it's like round 10. You're like, this is, I don't know what this leader does. Oh no, and that could just get to you.
It's so impactful. Yeah.
That's how I did it on Gecko. Well, can I read your leader? Yeah.
That's all the time you want.
Read it.
Music
Go for
to
it.
my ears.
Yeah. Favorite phrase to hear is like,
Yeah, so I guess the TLDR is we're big fans of the Banlist.
Love it. Love it. So I think like my take now is like, why do we have rotations again? Why? Bandai? Why do we have rotations again?
I guess we're gonna have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Because you didn't want to do leader-specific bans. I thought that's why we have rotations. But now that we have leader-specific bans, we can just maintain a healthy ban list. We don't need things to rotate away. We're already power creeping the game to oblivion and beyond next set. Why? Let's just revert that too, and like there will be parties in the streets. Unbanning Sokka, rotate, like everyone would go crazy.
Right.
It's probably too late for that, but
Well, that's it for our talk for Endless and Last Thoughts, but that's our talk for Banlist stuff.
I think we're good.
For those of you who don't know and you guys following at home right now, yeah, so this is us actually recording our videos for YouTube and whatnot, but we usually do it with the live audience just so you guys have a chance to, like, I don't know, be the live studio audience. If we see something really interesting in chat, we'll call it out and we'll have some chat with you guys. If we see some cool questions, we'll answer those too, depending on the segment. So that's actually coming up next. We'll be talking about some intermediate regional tips. But yeah, that's it for our video for just talking about the ban list and kind of how the meta is shaping up right now. But catch you guys back in a bit where we'll be talking about intermediate regional tips for those of you who were playing your first regional ever. Yeah. So yeah, don't stay away for too long, but we'll be back soon. Alright, catch you guys in a bit. Next video.
I'm gonna wash my hands.
Yeah, these goldfish are addicting, right?